sometimes the weight of the world is just too much, and we feel like we need a break. We feel like we want to get away from it. But we know that pure escapism is not good. We won't come back feeling any better than when we left. So what I've got today are 5 books that will give you a healthy break from reality. They give your imagination and your mind some space to breathe, so when you do come back to reality, you feel refreshed and ready to take on the world. So this first book I've got for you is one that's talked about a lot on BookTube, but it's a damn good book. It's Hyperion by Dan Simmons, a sci-fi classic that deserves all the praise that it gets. I often say that this is the sci-fi book for people who don't really read sci-fi, which is not to say that it's a literary book trying to be science fiction or a sci-fi book trying to be literary. What that means is it's just a damn good book with damn good storytelling, really well-crafted writing, and it's just so engrossing. You really find yourself lost in it, but at the same time, you find yourself challenged and intrigued and really stimulated. In case you don't know, it's a story of a group of pilgrims. In the far, far, far future, humanity has spread itself throughout the galaxy and has all sorts of amazing technological innovations. However, these pilgrims are going to a planet that is still a mystery to humanity, the planet Hyperion, with this strange creature, the Shrike. These pilgrims are all somehow linked to the Shrike through something in their past, and they're trying to figure out why they've been brought together and what they're going to do when they encounter the Shrike. Meanwhile, there is a bit of intrigue that goes on with this. There are some events that are happening in the human civilization. There is kind of the seeds of war are sprouting, and there's going to be this amazing revolutionary change to humanity that different factions of humanity can't quite agree on, and how that's going to turn out. So it's a really, really amazing story. It's really engrossing. It also has one great literary device, which is the story within the story. Each pilgrim has their own chapter within the book leading up to their arrival on the planet. And then once they're on the planet, the stories are all told together. Those individual chapters really stand well as their own stories. So you could approach this book as several small books put together. And I think that makes it really, really readable. It's much more readable than a lot of science fiction, because not only is the storytelling so good, the cast of characters is rather limited. It's not a massive cast of characters. There's not a huge number of planets and worlds and all these different strange things to keep track of. Now, this next book might surprise you because it's almost a romance, but stick with me. I think you're going to find that it's actually a really good book and a really great escape. It is Love in a Fallen City by Eileen Chong. Now, Eileen Chong is a Chinese writer. She wrote in the 1930s, 40s, and I think even into the 50s and 60s. These stories are set in the 1930s and 40s in Shanghai and in Hong Kong, and they offer up a kind of romanticized vision of what life was like back then, but it's more than that. It also offers a really fascinating window into what life was like in Shanghai and in China at this time. So this is leading up to World War II and even kind of the early days of World War II, when China hadn't quite fully fallen under control of Japan, although that is looming. So it offers a really fascinating window into a time that a lot of us know nothing about. On top of that, there are a lot of insights into Chinese culture, particularly the Chinese culture of Shanghai, Hong Kong, that would be like the eastern part of China and the southern parts of China, which are not culturally dominant anymore, but at the time they were culturally dominant. So it offers some really, really interesting insights into that. It also offers some very fascinating insights into the lives of women and of young women at that time, and how they navigated the forces or the dominating forces of society, of their family, and they're trying to navigate their way into kind of building their own life and their own future. So there's actually a lot going on under the hood in this book, even though it's kind of often passed off as kind of romance, kind of historical fiction. It's kind of somewhere in between. And when you think of romance, it's not the overly cliched type of romance. They're just romantic stories largely because a lot of the women in these stories, their families are pushing them into relationships which they often don't want to be in. So if you're looking for something kind of historical and also something to kind of broaden your interests or broaden your understanding, particularly of Chinese culture and of a particular set of Chinese culture that is largely unknown, this might be the book for you. All right, my next book here is definitely a modern sci-fi masterpiece, and it's also a book that really transcends the whole genre. It's Ancillary Justice by Ann Leckie. This is a book that has been really, really popular for a really long time, and like Hyperion, it's popular for a reason, because it's just incredibly well written. This is the first novel of a trilogy that tells a much larger story of a sort of post-human empire in which AI and cybernetics and almost like post-human or transhumanism, meaning like humans who transcend the body, so to speak, is the dominant force in this galactic empire. However, that all is going to come unraveled. I'm not going to give away the story and the plot. This book kind of starts out with almost a survivalist kind of story, where our main character, who is an AI that would normally be controlling a ship, but has been downloaded into a body because the ship has been destroyed, that AI is on an icy planet trying to survive, trying to find a crew member from her ship, because this AI wants to piece together what happened to the ship. And that story of what happened to the ship leads into a much larger story of intrigue, and also touches on a lot of really fascinating ideas, which I think are quite relevant now. Ideas of gender, what it means to be human, what is the line and the division between humans and technology, how do we use our technology, and when can all of those things go awry? What sets the book apart, because those are really common things in science fiction, what sets the book apart is great storytelling, really unique characters, and a very unique vision of how humanity would spread itself throughout a galaxy and become a dominant force throughout the galaxy, and its own approach to colonization, basically. So there's a lot going on under the hood in this book that readers of literary fiction and all types of fiction will really, really enjoy, because not only is it a science fiction story, there's a lot of treachery, there's a lot of intrigue, there's also a lot of really fascinating world building and just commentary on consciousness and what it means to be alive. Now, my next book is more than just a book, and it's one of my favorite books of all time from one of my favorite writers in one of my favorite genres. It is Criminal by Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. This is a huge omnibus of graphic novels and comics told within a criminal underworld that these guys have created. And don't let it turn you off that these come from comics and graphic novels. The storytelling here is absolutely on par with some of the finest novelists and writers out there. It just happens to be told in a graphic format. And speaking of the graphic format, the artwork from Sean Phillips, who is the main artist in here, is absolutely phenomenal. It's very impressionistic, but also realistic at the same time. He's got a fantastic technique and way of expressing characters' emotions, how their inner thoughts and feelings. The color palettes too do a fantastic job of enhancing the mood and the set pieces and the stories, and it's just really great. This first volume collects 3 story arcs, which is Coward, Lawless, and The Dead and the Dying. Each are 3 pretty unique crime stories. These are not police procedurals, these are not mysteries, these are not whodunits. These are the stories of people living in the underbelly of society. We get stories of a thief, professional thief, who is out of the business, gets pulled back into it against his wishes, and lives to regret it. We get the story of Tracy Lawless, who becomes a recurring character in most of the criminal stories. He's a man who leaves the military, falls into a life of crime, and really comes to regret it. There's a common theme here. And the last story is actually quite tragic. It's a story of a woman who tries to basically kind of pull herself up through a relationship, and again, she lives to regret it. So we have a lot of stories of tragedy and regret. Really fantastic storytelling. I think that graphic novels are really highly underrated amongst readers, and if you're really looking for a great escape that's also stimulating and something fresh and new, definitely try a graphic novel. Definitely try Criminal from Ed Brubaker and Sean Phillips. Now for this last book on the list, I'm going to cheat a little bit, but it's a good thing. I want a suggestion from you. What should be the 5th book on this list? What should be a book that can transport you, take your mind off your troubles for the time, but not turn it into mush? Please leave your suggestions in the comments below.